Hey everyone, I'd like to thank you for joining us today. This is Rick Murphy with AllNet, and I am here to be the host of the presentation today. We've got the presenter is going to be Jared Edwards from Luxul. He's going to be discussing the Domotz Remote Systems Monitoring and Management platform, and specifically the Luxul appliance that we're offering through AllNet. For those of you who are not familiar with what Domotz is a remote monitoring platform that runs on the net and allows you to log in remotely to keep an eye on your customer systems so you don't have to roll a truck each time. So this is something it's not necessarily new to the industry, but the way that they're approaching it has some new twists that Jared will be discussing. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to find a product that was manufacturer agnostic so that you could get remote systems monitoring on all levels of connected devices. You didn't have to stick with one brand or one manufacturer's product in order to get this service or be able to offer this service to your clients. So you can offer products that are, maybe a better value, and then you can also choose different products that maybe are closer to best of breed depending upon the level of the sale that you've got going, and you can offer remote monitoring to all of those clients. So with this, I will turn it over to Jared Edwards.
All right. Thanks, Rick. Appreciate it. Appreciate everyone's time this morning. Of course, as we all know, time is very much related to money, and so if you're here, you're not necessarily out in the field making money, and the goal today, of course, is to make it so that your ability to make money and be successful is maybe made a little easier. And we're going to talk about how you can do that with Domotz. So we're excited about this product and excited about our partnership. So let's go through some of the things here that make it unique. First of all, as Rick mentioned, we do try to record webinars, and I believe AllNet is recording this one for their dealer portal. And if you're interested in more information about Luxul and some of the things that we can do and some of the networking tips and tricks, you can log on to our dealer portal, and we have a whole section of information, how-to videos. In fact, there's some brand new how-to videos that are there and some more that will be showing up within the next couple of days. So there's lots of information there that we try to get out to you folks to make you a little more successful and a little more efficient in what you're trying to do. Let's start off today by talking about why networking is now the foundation of everything we do. And I've got two graphics here to put up, and on the right-hand side you have, both of these come from CE Pro, by the way, and on the right-hand side you have 2014, and on the left-hand side, excuse me, you have 2015 of the fastest growth categories and what the most common product is that installers are putting in. And as you'll notice on the top of both of those lists, home networking and IT is there. And the reason for that, of course, is as much fun as it was to have networking, to have our installation be plug red into red and plug white into white and everything just works, unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, we're not there anymore. And the network is now the foundation of everything you're doing, whether it's just putting in Wi-Fi for somebody's mobile device, or you're putting in a full-blown automation system, or a client just calls you up and says, hey, can you hook up my Sonos or my Nest? Either way now, you are touching the network. And so it's become very, very important and the baseline and foundation of everything that you do. And so with that, if you get all these systems running on a network, and you're, of course, being hired to take all of these different brands and all these different systems and make them work together. And if you do that, and it works together, that's wonderful. But sometimes you might get a phone call because those systems might not work as well together or work the way that they should, and the customer's not real happy. And so at that point, you have a decision to make because you're sitting there going, well, I can either roll a truck, which is really expensive, or I wish I had more information about the network in general. And so that's where Domotz comes in, and that's what we want to talk about today, is to make you more efficient and give you a lot more information on what's going on and the ability to react to that and be proactive without having to roll a truck before you get there and make the expense and take the expense of rolling that truck. So let's talk about what Domotz is and who they are. Most of you guys have probably heard of Fing. And Fing is nothing more than a network scanning tool. It's a great little tool. I'm sure a lot of you have probably used it before. And it goes out and scans your network and finds every device on your network. And it'll give you the IP address and the MAC address and sometimes the brand name of the component and all those types of things. Well, you may be surprised to know that Domotz owns Fing. And that is their consumer-based product that everyone can use and everyone has access to, which of course is why there's so many millions of downloads and millions of active users. And if you've used it, you know that it's a really, really great product. But again, it's just a network scanner. Domotz, on the other hand, is their product that actually is a network remote management and monitoring tool. And it's meant specifically for custom installers and meant specifically for you guys to help it make your life easier. And so there's a lot of things that it has that Fing technology incorporates into it, but there's also a lot of things that it does that are much greater than what Fing offers. So that's a little bit about who Domotz is and what they do. Why do you want to choose them? Well, like Rick mentioned, everything runs on a network. And so you want a network system that is going to monitor everything, not just your network infrastructure. And what I mean by that is there's other products out there that are remote management products, but sometimes you get locked into just a particular brand. And you can get into and remote into those particular products from that particular brand, but what about the rest of the stuff that's on the network? And as you know, networks start to work as a whole ecosystem, and the whole ecosystem must work together. And so you may have a network device that's working fine, but something that's plugged into that network device that may not be working fine. And so what about the rest of those types of products? Well, again, like Rick mentioned, and he said it very well, you want a monitoring system that's agnostic and industry friendly. And here's why. At Luxul, we have a general philosophy that part of the reason that we feel we have an advantage or a success rate is because we play nice with everybody. I had one guy put it to me the other day that we're Switzerland and we like to play nice with everyone because everyone needs a network. So whether you're using URC or RTI or Savant or Control4 or Sonos or Nest, we play nice with everyone. And what that allows you to do as a dealer is to get to the point where you don't have to choose a brand based upon the ecosystem that it's evolved around. You can now go out and pick the best of breed products and the very best products for your company and for your client and have Domotz monitor all of them. And they do really try to work with all the industry leaders out there. Because again, there's some proprietary systems and there's some monitoring systems that are out there in the market that, like I said, they work very well, but they're kind of tied into their own brand. And so you don't want to be pigeonholed into that same brand. You want to have the ability to go out and monitor everything and know everything about the network and all of the devices that are on that network. So instead of putting the brand name first of what ecosystem they're trying to promote, Domotz really tries to put the dealers first and make it so that you have the ability to have more information about the network before you ever roll a truck. Oh, and by the way, Domotz is more powerful, scalable, and leading edge than a lot of those others. And here's what we mean by that. It doesn't matter whether you have 4 devices or 400 devices on your network. Domotz is able to handle that and monitor and manage all of those devices. And of course, that leads right into the scalable part where you can have a small, medium, or large network. And leading edge, they are very much on the cutting edge. In fact, a lot of the features that you see in some of the products that are coming out, Domotz was first to come to market with that. And they're ahead of the curve and pushing the industry to do a lot of things that haven't been done before. And so, again, with their dealer focus and their agnostic approach of being industry friendly with everyone, they really do want to try and make it work easily. And you'll see that here in just a moment. But they have lots of features that they push out very, very quickly and lots of additional things that are coming and lots of things that they do to enhance the product and make it even easier to use. And they do that very, very quickly. So they're very much on the cutting edge of what's going on with remote management. Now, if I had one slide that summed up most of what Domotz is, this would probably be it. Because all of these things here, as you can see on the screen, are what Domotz does, or part of what Domotz does. On the left side, you have a computer and a mobile device. And of course, that means you can use a computer to log into it from anywhere, or a mobile device. And I want to make the point here that the mobile device is not just a website that you go to. It's actually a dedicated app. And by golly, it looks the exact same and acts the exact same as it does if you were on a computer. So whether you're using a computer or a mobile device, it's the same experience and the same layout. So it works really, really well that way. On the core features side of things, of course, there's things like remote access and 24/7 monitoring, which means you can get into anyone's account or anyone's system at any time that you need. There's customizable alerts for the entire network, or you can drill down and go per device, which is kind of nice, because I don't know about you, but I don't really care to know every time my son's iPad turns on and off on the network. But some people might want to know that, so you can customize it and say, hey, I want to know every time he's on and off the network. Power management is a big deal because it's nice to be able to know all these things, but the real benefit is being able to take action with all of these things. And so power management can be means it can control devices either from a PoE switch or from a standalone PDU. And they do work with most brand names of PDU that are out in the market currently. There's diagnostics and reports, and there's network mapping, and I'll show you that here in a few minutes, but it actually does show you the map and the trail of how your network is set up. And then there's team management as well. And the team management is somewhat cool and unique in that, let's say that I'm the business owner, and I've got 3 installers. And instead of giving all 3 of those installers my username and password to get in and control all of my dealers or all of my clients' networks, let's say I happen to get sideways with one of those installers and he's not going to work out, and for whatever reason I decide I've got to let him go. Well, with Domotz, if you have him set up on a different account, you can actually get rid of his access to each of your customers' accounts before you let him go so that he can't go back and cause any havoc in that way. So it's kind of a nice little feature. And then they have what they just debuted at CEDIA, which is a customer-facing app, which we'll talk about in just a moment, which gives you the ability, should you choose to give your customers some empowerment and give them a little bit of control of their system by an app that you provide to them. So that's kind of a summary of Domotz, kind of in a quick nutshell there. All of this can be had for $2.99 per month. And yes, that means, or what I like to call, $36 a year. And there's a couple of ways to look at this. At $36 a year, if you save 1 truck roll, you've made money. The other way to look at it is, take the RMR opportunity there. And think of the $36 a year as dealer cost. So you're going to pass that along to your customer, which you should, and charge $50 or $100 or whatever it is you deem is necessary and reasonable for your market and your client. And now you're making money that way as well and saving money when you don't have to roll a truck. So there's several different advantages here and opportunities to make some extra income. Let's talk about Violet, which is their customer-facing app. The cool thing about this is, we've all had that customer where you think to yourself, in no way do I want to give this guy any access to anything because he will just mess it up. And so in that instance, you don't have to give him anything. You want him to call and you want to be in total control of everything that goes on with his network and his system because that's going to be the best thing for you. But you've also got that other customer who you think to yourself, it might not be a bad idea to give him a little ownership and a little empowerment and let him feel like he's involved in this system to some degree. So with the Violet app, you can actually give them the ability to request support from you if you need to. You can have your name and your logo right there on the screen if you decide to. And then you can go so far as to say, I'm going to allow him to reboot X amount of devices. Because as we all know, Apple TVs and cable boxes never ever lock up. We've never had that phone call. So If you want to give him the ability to do that and save him making a call to you, that may be in your best interest, and you can decide whether you want to do that or not. And then, of course, it can do things like discovery alerts. When a new device comes on the network, they can be alerted, you can be alerted, and so you know what's going on the network and what's showing up at what time. So there's lots of different things that you can do. That's kind of just scratching the surface of the Violet app. But just to kind of give you an idea that it is there and it is available for you to provide to your client if you want to. How does Domotz Pro work? Well, essentially, there's an agent or a little piece of software that runs on the network. And it calls into the cloud and is a secure connection to their cloud servers. And then when you want to remote into the system, you call into the same cloud, and it creates then a secure connection between all three devices. And so you have a secure connection there, and all of this, of course, is without any port forwarding or any VPN or anything like that. There's very little setup on your part, as you'll see here in just a moment. So to install it, you've got a couple of different options. The first option is the Domotz box, which is the piece that's available through AllNet and through all of our distributors. And our idea with that, which we'll talk about in a minute, is to just make it available to you at the same place and at the same time as when you're picking up all of your Luxul equipment. The second option is you can run their agent on a Raspberry Pi. However, be aware that there are some limitations with the Raspberry Pi, and mainly this is due to the hardware limitations that are inside the Pi itself. The third option is you can run it off of a NAS drive, a QNAP or a Synology NAS, or a Netgear NAS. And again, the same limitation is there because now you're sharing resources with the processor inside that NAS unit as running the NAS and now running the Domotz box. So as a best practice, we usually recommend for professional installations, whether it's a medium or large or even a small installation, that you put in the Domotz box. And it really just comes down to horsepower and the ability to have enough horsepower there to do everything that the Domotz can do, especially on a medium to larger size system. And that's why we've gone with the separate or dedicated Domotz box. So a couple different options there, but again, the Domotz box is the one that's recommended. And again, you can see here that this is the piece that's available through AllNet. And it is a co-branded piece because of our partnership. And it's currently available, if I'm not mistaken. Dealer costs about $105. You could buy it from Domotz, but again, the idea is to make it available in the same place and at the same time as you're picking up all of your other equipment, so you have everything right there when you go to your installation. So we're really, really excited to have this piece available and have it in AllNet. And we think it's going to work really, really well. And once you use it, and we'll show a demo here in just a minute, you'll see how easy Domotz is to use and configure. I think it'll be something that will be hopefully worth your while to put in most, if not all, of your installations. All right, and speaking of installation, let's talk about how you actually install it. So the first thing you want to do is connect it to the network. It does require Ethernet. It's not a Wi-Fi device, so it is an Ethernet connection. Then you want to plug it in. And then I like to wait about 10, 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, depending upon the size of the network, because what it's going to do when it boots up is first call home to see if there's a firmware update. And if there is, it will automatically update itself to the latest Domotz software and then install that software and reboot itself. If it doesn't have a new firmware that's available and it's already up to date, then it will go to step 2 and discover and map out your network. And this process does take a little bit of time, again, depending upon the size of your network. And then comes the easy part. You open the Domotz app on a mobile device. And you want to be sure that you're on the same Wi-Fi network that the Domotz box is on that you just installed. And you'll click on adding an agent to your account. And the way that you do that is up in the top left here, you hit the little icon that has the menu bars with the arrow on it, and it will slide out a new screen. And at the bottom of that screen, it will say Find New Agent. You click that, and it will add that agent that's on that network to your Domotz Pro account that you already have set up. And that's really about it. Now, I'll tell you my experience in my home when I set this up is I literally plugged it into the network, and then I plugged it into the power, and I waited a little bit. And about 20 minutes later, it showed me all of the devices on my network, what IP address each one of those devices was on, the name of each one of those devices, which port they were plugged into on my switch. And again, I did not have to go out and do any of this. I did not have to go name devices. It did it all for me. Now, of course, there's a few devices that it won't name, or that it will name, and you may want it named a different name. Of course, you have the ability to go and change all of that. But my point here is that it does all of this for you automatically, or at least the good majority of it. And you have to do very, very little in order to make it work. It just is kind of automatic. So that's about it as far as adding an agent and how you get it set up. Now let's go into a little bit of a demo, and I'll show you kind of how this all works and how easy it is, and show you the interface of Domotz if you haven't seen it. So let's slide over here to just the main Domotz website. And I show you the website so that you'll know that where you want to go as a professional installer is up here to the Become a Dealer link right up at the top. That will give you a Domotz Pro account, which is what you want. There are lots of things that come with the Pro account that do not come with any of their other types of accounts, such as the Violet app if you want to take advantage of that or use that, and some of the integration with other third-party products that you don't get with some of their other accounts. So that's where you want to click, is to become a dealer, and that will bring up a Pro account that you'll create. So I'll log into mine at this point. And this is just my house. And when you log into your account, you'll see here the licenses that you have, which they're actually going to be changing the way that you do that. But you'll see the agent name and what version it's on and if it's active. This is where, under Team, you would actually add different team members for your organization. So if I wanted to add one of my installers, I would do that here. And again, I've got a couple of options. I can add a team member, which will access everything that's under my Pro account, or I can add him as a field operator, which will allow me to assign him only certain accounts that he can have access to. Either way, you can then go in if you need to. If, let's say, you get sideways with a guy, you can go in and disable whichever account he's got, but you have more control over what you allow him access to from the get-go. So that's where you do that. And then the web app is where you actually would go to log into the application itself. So we'll do that now. And a couple things happen here. First of all, you can see on the right-hand side that there's just a map, and it maps out where every device is that you've got in your list. And the list, of course, is on the left-hand side right here. Now, every one of the agents that you put in and every one of the accounts that you have will all be listed here under your Pro account. So you could have Smith Residence or Pain in the Butt Client. Of course, you can name it whatever you want to. But if you get a whole long list of them, there's a couple things here. You have a search option. So if you need to search for Smith Residence or something like that, you can certainly do that. Here is your menu system for this, and this will tell you at the bottom here, this was where you'll log out, or if you want to enable or disable all of your alerts, and we'll show you the alerts here in just a moment. Now, that's where you do that, and it will give you an overview of how many agents you have attached to your account. And as you can see here, I've got two different accounts listed here, and so we'll just jump into mine here real quickly and show you what it looks like. Now again, the mobile version of this is exactly the same as the computer. So ease of use is right high at the top. Let's dive into one of the devices and go to the devices page. And then as soon as I click on this, you'll see that it will show me every device that is on my network. Again, I did not go out and name any of these. I did not go out and tell it what IP address any of these were on. It just finds all of this for you and then tells you what the overall network is. Let's say, for example, I wanted to dive deep, and this is where Domotz really becomes exciting, because with a lot of these scanners or remote management pieces, it will give you all of this information. It's the deeper dive and the integration with products, and especially with Luxul products that we've worked hard with Domotz to get, that allows you to have the ability to control a lot of different devices on the network. So this is where the magic really happens. Let's say I wanted to jump into my switch. And I click on the switch, and immediately it will tell me some information about the switch. It'll tell me how long it's been online. It'll tell me what type of services I've got that I can log into. It tells me the IP address of what I got it set up as, what type of device it is. And of course, I can add it to my important devices and set up an alert according to that device. If the switch goes down, I can immediately know. And in a lot of cases, frankly, if you have it set up this way for any device, you will probably know before your customer does. So let's jump into this a little bit here. You'll notice across the top there are some tabs. And this is where really one of the main powerful things of Domotz is. Let's say I want to connect to my switch. I can hit the Connect tab, and Domotz has already found the 3 types of access that I have to my switch. Now, one of the things that's very different about Domotz than some of the other remote management pieces out there is that it is not just limited to Luxul devices or devices that it knows. This will give you access to any device on the network that has a web portal that you can log into. So whether it's your AV receiver or your camera NVR or DVR or anything else that has some sort of web interface, you will be able to log into it remotely at any time for no extra fee other than the $36 a year. So for example, let's say I want to connect to my switch. I literally hit the connect button there, and as you can see, it's going out and trying to make a connection here. And as soon as it makes that connection, it will pop up and let me allow me to log into the switch with my username and password. So here we go. And as you can see, I'm now on the interface of my switch. It really is that easy and that fast. This is real time. This is not a pre-done demo. I'm doing this live. So it really is that fast and that easy. And if I wanted to go and change something in my switch, say I wanted to change my VLANs or something, I could certainly do any of that. But it really is that simple. And you could do this with any device on the network. Alerts, of course, you can set up by device, like I mentioned, and I'll show you the whole alert page here in just a few minutes. And then the history will show you, and there isn't any on the switch here because it's been up the whole time. But if I looked at a different device, like my son's tablet, you'll see that it's on and off and on and off and on and off, and you can see that it keeps track of that for you. Excuse me. And then the SNMP info, which is really where some of the other magic of Domotz lies. As you can see, it automatically reads all of this information from the switch. Again, I didn't have to do anything or configure anything or set anything up for it to get all of this information. This is part of the tight integration between Luxul and Domotz. So on this switch, it's a PoE managed switch, of course, and that is important. It does need to be a managed switch in order for you to be able to read any information off of it. An unmanaged switch, of course, does not have that ability. But because this is a managed PoE switch, it'll tell me what my power budget is and how much of that I'm using. And then it lists every single port and every single device that's plugged into each one of those ports. And then, of course, on the right-hand side here, I can toggle PoE power if I want to. So let's say, for example, on port 4, I had an access point that for whatever reason needed to be booted or rebooted. I can turn it off, and it will shut off the power out of that particular port to that access point. And then I turn it back on, and it reboots the access point or whatever the PoE device happens to be. So it's really kind of neat. Let's see here. The other thing I wanted to show you is you'll notice that it says multi-device on some of these pieces here instead of saying what the actual device is. And the reason for that is because this is your network map. And what it means is it sees a device that multiple other devices are then attached to. So in this case, this happens to be one of my access points. So if I click on it, it will tell me that on port 15, I've got a PoE device that's pulling 10 watts, and if you go down the line, it'll tell you that that's my XAP 1510 access point. And then it lists every device that is attached to that access point at this time. So there's your network map. It does this on wireless, and it does it on Wi-Fi, or excuse me, on wireless and on a wired connection, because I've got my main switch downstairs, and then I've got another switch upstairs, and even though that switch upstairs is not a managed switch, Domotz can still go through the line and find out what is attached, and you can see that this is all of my audio-video equipment, because this is the switch that's behind my AV rack. And it's just a small 8-port unmanaged switch, but Domotz still knows everything that's connected to it. So, kind of a neat little thing for network mapping there. So that's a real brief overview of what Domotz can show you from a switch standpoint. Let's see if we can turn this one back on. If it doesn't work, that's okay. It usually does. All right, so let's go into, so that's basically the list of all your devices. Let's go into network mapping here a little bit. And it will actually show you what your speeds are for your network and how much uptime you've had. It will give you ping results if you want to see that. It'll tell you what your ping millisecond time is so that you can tell whether there's a problem coming from the ISP or not. And again, like I said, here's your download speed and your upload speed. And you can test it right now if you want, or you can test it. It'll do it automatically. And I believe it's every 3 to 4 hours, if I'm not mistaken. The neat thing about this is they have a report that you can generate that's automatic. You click a button and it'll email you a report, which you can then send to your client if you want to send them a monthly report of what's going on with your system, which could be another way that helps you justify to them how and why you're charging them for all of their remote monitoring, besides the fact that you're probably changing them, or excuse me, saving them money if you're not rolling a truck. So there's a couple of things there. Route analysis actually will tell you if you are all connected all the way to not just your ISP, but an actual website out there. So let's say I wanted to go and check Google's website. If I click on this, it will run a test to make sure it's basically like a trace route that shows you everything in the path from my machine to Google and how long it takes to get there. And this can be useful for a diagnostic tool, because if something happens and you're getting huge millisecond ping times from one device to the next or one hop to the next, that can help you understand whether there's a ISP issue or not. So it's kind of neat in that way as well. Alerts. We'll go to the Alerts tab. And again, this can be done by the entire network or per device. And if you do the network, you've got a couple of different options here for new device discoveries or agent lost and recovered. Now, I've got these turned off because, again, I don't really care to know when my son's tablet goes on and offline or my wife's phone goes on and offline every time they turn it on and turn it off. But I would like to know when a new device gets shown up on my network. And a quick example of that is I was actually sitting at my desk in my office one day. It was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and all of a sudden I get a notification on my phone that a new device has been discovered on my network. And I look down, and it's my father-in-law's iPhone. And I thought to myself, what in the world is he doing at my house at 1 o'clock in the afternoon? Shouldn't he be at work? But it actually brought me an idea, and that is, it's inevitable that at some point, after you set up your customer's network, that they're going to go buy a new device and put it online. And at that point, it will tell you that the device is online and the new device has been discovered. You have a choice at that point. You can either say, hey, I'm going to call this person and offer to help him set this up. Let's say it's a Nest thermostat, for example. You can call him up and say, hey, I noticed a new device came online, and would you like some help, or do you need any help setting that up and getting it up and running properly? At which point your client is going to go, okay, that's kind of creepy. or he's going to say, yeah, sure, please come on over and help me get this set up. Or you don't have to make that phone call at all. Of course, it's completely up to your choice whether you want to do that or not, but the opportunity is now there. As far as devices go, they have a standard alert or a custom alert. And this is where you can really drill down to see and make it act the way that you want it to act and give you the alerts that you want and disregard the ones that you don't want. And if you click on the standard alert wheel here, it will show you, of course, that everything that you do is going to affect standard alerts for every device that you put in the standard alert category. And the standard alerts that you can check here are going up, going down, or if a heartbeat is lost. And if you want to know every time a device goes on and offline and loses its heartbeat, then you can certainly know that, and your device will get pinged a lot. And that's fine. You can certainly do that. But then there's custom alerts. And you can actually go in and have the same things, but also have a new service or a custom service that you want. So if you want to monitor a particular port on a particular device and know whether it goes down or not, for example, your NVR, if you say, hey, port 8080 or whatever it is that you've got the NVR set up on, if it goes down and I lose connection to that, I want to know about it because that means my customer can't see their cameras anymore. So there's lots of different options there, and of course you can do it by each individual device so that not every one of them fits under that custom category, only the ones that you want, which is kind of neat. Okay? And then customer management, this is where you would put in the client app for Violet if you have the need to do so or the desire to do so, and certainly we can give you more information with that. And then the report section. This is where you would print out a report, and literally you click the email button here, and it will give you a report monthly of the devices that are online, what your speed of your internet connection coming in overall for the last 30 days was, and et cetera, et cetera. You can certainly send that out to your client. Or you can send it by devices, and you say, I want to know every single device that's on my network, and it will give you a listing of every device that's on the network and all of the ones that were new versus the ones that have been there for a while, etc. So it's really powerful in its monitoring and reporting capability that you can then go to and present to your client if you want to. So collaboration, lastly, is a tab that allows you to collaborate with other people that have a Domotz account, and I bring this up because we have a setup with Domotz where we can temporarily collaborate with you so that if you have a Domotz box in the network and for whatever reason you need to reach out to tech support, we can actually log in and be as if we are online or as if we are local to your network through that connection, and it lasts as long as we need it to last, an hour or so, and then the collaboration goes away. So this is where you would collaborate with our tech support if the need arises to do that. So we have the ability to get into your network and be local and see what's going on there. So that is really about it in a nutshell. At this point, Rick, do we have any questions that we want to go over, or do we want to save those towards the end?
So far, the chat box doesn't have any questions in it, but I've got a quick question myself, and then we can go add some extra things toward the end. So my question is, a lot of devices are IP controlled today, but we've got a lot of our dealers have got systems out there, legacy systems, where this thing is just an absolute no-brainer, plug and play. But a lot of those systems might be controlled 232 serial through a processor like an RTI, URC, AMX, etc. What can Domotz do to drill down on those devices that are connected two-way through a processor?
It depends on if the processor is connected via network and it can drill through and find out what connections there are to devices that are behind that. It may have the ability to do that, but as to my knowledge right now, if it's IR or 232, there is no discovery that I'm aware of at this point. However, there is Zigbee discovery for those of you who are Control 4 dealers. It'll show you every Zigbee device that's on the network. and there is Z-Wave, I believe, also that they can discover and show as part of the overall network.
Okay. Well, let's continue with the presentation, and then we do have some chat, so we'll have some things toward the end of the presentation. We'll get to all these chat questions.
Perfect, perfect. One more thing that I wanted to show was, and I'll flip over to another account here because it's got one on here. I wanted to show you the PDU, or the power management device setup, because as I mentioned, everything with Domotz is pretty much automatic other than this. And the reason why you have to actually go in and name accounts here is because there is no network discovery when you plug in just a power outlet to a device. So you will have to go into, and in this case, of course, we're just showing a Panamax unit. You do have to go in and name what device you've plugged into each outlet. And as soon as you do so, then you have control to just click one button here and power cycle the entire thing, and it'll automatically turn it off and then turn it back on, or you can go over here and turn it off permanently. So again, just to let you know, there is one spot where you do have to set your names, and that is here when you're just plugging in outlets to a power distribution unit of some sort. So, but again, whether it's a PoE switch or a PDU, you have complete control to reboot those devices that may lock up more frequently than others, like a cable box or something like that. So that's certainly there. All right. Continuing on, let's go over some of our newer wireless routers here for just a minute. This is my little dog and pony show of a pitch, so we'll make this short and sweet. Some of you may be familiar with some of these products, some of you may not. But the first one we want to talk about is the 3100. And it is a replacement for the XWR 1750. There's a couple of really neat things that this piece will do if you're not aware. Of course, it is dual band wireless, and the big kicker here and the big party trick is that it has now the wireless controller built in. So if any of you have used our standalone XWC1000 wireless controller and used the roaming capability of that, you know the power of what that can give you in a network. Well, now you have the ability to have that inside a router. You can add up to 2 additional access points for a total of 3 wireless points, the router being the third point. So you can have a total now of 3 access points across your network and throughout your home that you're installing into, and have a seamless roaming assist function all across all 3 devices. So it's really, really a nice feature. It does have the latest AC Wave 2, which is multi-user MIMO instead of single-user MIMO. It does have a USB port that is 3.0 and will share files. So if you plug your USB drive into that, it will actually, allow access to all of those files on your network. And the price from the 1750 doesn't go up a whole lot. Retail on this guy is $440. So it's a pretty good value considering all the technology with the controller built in that it has to offer. And then we didn't stop there. We decided to do the same thing to the XWR 1200, which of course replaces the XWR 600 that we've had for several years. It also is dual band wireless and also has the controller built in, again with the ability to go and add 2 more access points for a total of 3. It's 2x2 antennas. It does also have the USB file sharing. It's USB 2 instead of USB 3. And this is $220 MSRP, which is an incredible value retail-wise for everything that it does. I don't know of another router out on the market in its price range that has any sort of roaming controller function built in. So we're really excited about this piece, and it's been doing very, very well. In fact, both of them have been doing very well for us. So there's those. And then the wireless bridge. We were unfortunately without a wireless bridge for a little while, and the only reason why is not because we wanted to be, but of course because one of the manufacturers of one of the chipsets that was in that original unit of the 1040s decided to stop making it, and so therefore we ended up not having a product. but it allowed us the opportunity to say, hey, if we're going to build a new product, let's build it the way that we want it to be. And so we have fortunately been able to do that, and we have the XWO BAP1. This can be purchased one of two ways, and the first way is as just a standalone outdoor IP for just regular general wireless coverage outside. It is dual band, so it's 2.4 and 5 gig. It does have 2x2 antennas. It's an IP65 rated enclosure, of course includes all of the bracket and hardware that you want. It can be added and used in a point-to-point or a point-to-multi-point setup, and retail on this guy is $599. However, we think the second way is how most people are going to buy this, and this is as a pre-configured kit. And what I mean by pre-configured kit is literally they are already linked together. So there's two of them in the box that are already linked. You pull them out of the box, you mount them, and plug them in, and as long as they're facing each other, they will automatically link up. You don't have to do anything with the SSIDs. You don't have to go find root and client. They're already linked up and ready to go, and they start running immediately. So it's really a neat little system and makes it easy for you to set up quickly. They are a point-to-point bridge out of the box, but of course you can go in and modify it if you want to and make it a point-to-multi-point if necessary. Of course, this includes the bracket and the hardware as well, and this kind of gives you an idea of the speeds that we have been able to test this with. Now let me give you a little bit of background on this. When we were doing the research on what people use these mostly for, we were overwhelmingly told that usually it's from the main house to a barn, or a main house to a pool house, or a main house to the front gate. And so the distances that we're talking about are not really that far. We're not talking a mile or 2 miles or anything like that. So when we went out to test this, and these tests are shown as we tested it out in the desert out in Utah where we're located, and at 2.4, it really doesn't matter whether you're 4 feet away or 40 yards away, you're going to get 90 meg. That's just what it's going to tap out as. That's just what the radios can do. But on 5 gig, which is where the bridge generally takes place, you can see that it's a lot higher than that. And again, with that idea of main house to pool house or main house to barn, where we're talking usually quarter mile or so, maybe half mile at the very most, you can see that in a fairly RF-free environment, we got some pretty decent speeds out of it. Now you bring it back to the city and you put it in an environment which is more real world and has a little bit more RF interference, and those numbers are going to come down a little bit, but still I think it's reasonable to expect that you're going to get somewhere between 150 to 250 megasecond based upon your environment, as long as you've got pretty much line of sight on these guys on the 5 gig band. So they work very, very well. We've had some people put them in installations going across freeways already and all that, and they work fantastically. So we're excited to have a bridge product back. And of course, as you can see, $11.99 is the MSRP for the kit, the pre-configured kit. Why do you want to use Luxul? Well, as I'm sure most of you, when you got into business, you did not get into business to be a nonprofit organization. And so why would you then sell a product that is now basically the foundation of everything that you're going to install on top of it? Why would you use a product that you can't make money on? And so that's where Luxul wants to be your partner. And we want to provide you 40 to 50 points of margin and have it be controlled and sold only through the CDIA channel. We want to make it robust so that it's a commercial class solution, and we kind of categorize this as a couple of different ways. We have on the bottom level, you've got consumer grade, then you've got commercial class, then you've got enterprise class. And frankly, there are some things where we really knock hard on the door of enterprise class equipment, the switches and the wireless roaming being those two main things. But for the most part, we categorize ourselves as a commercial class solution. And you may be saying to yourself, well, why do I need a commercial class network? Everything I'm doing is in the home. And you're right, it is. But let's be honest, all of that automation equipment that you're putting in is commercial grade product and requires a robust network in order for it to function properly. And I'm sure we all have plenty of horror stories as to what happens when that isn't the case. And so we're trying to avoid that make it easy for you to set up, make it easy for your client, and make it just work. So we also want to be able to be a single source for all of your networking gear. So if you have an access point and a switch and a router and they're all Luxul pieces, you only have one phone call to make if you have the need to reach out to tech support. And of course, a common user interface across all of the devices makes it easy to set up. We, of course, have a 3-year warranty with all of our products, so we want to let you know that we stand behind you guys and want to make a product that is worthy of you putting your stamp and your company name on it as well. We do have a web store, and we have this only for being able to buy accessories and some of the partner products like the Domotz box and replacement parts, because I'm sure none of you have ever lost any rack ears or PoE injectors or anything like that. And sometimes it's not easy to get those from the distributor. Sometimes it is, just depends. And so we make it available to you to buy directly from us, those accessory pieces and replacement parts, if you need them. And then, of course, we have our personal use program. And if you're not familiar with this, this is something that we do that is a 50% off of dealer discount for your own personal home or your business, because with networking, we feel that one of the greatest strengths that we have is being able to let you play with it and get familiar with it and comfortable with it, because comfort level is really what it comes down to with networking products. And if you're comfortable with it, now you go to someone's home and you, instead of saying, yeah, I think I can make this work, you can say, yeah, I can make this work, because you've done it before and you're familiar with it and it's easy for you now. So if that's something that you are interested in taking advantage of, please send an email to sales@luxul.com, and those guys can take it from there. And then, like I mentioned earlier in the first of the webinar, we do have education is a big thing for us, and so we do have several networking courses that are available from our dealer portal. You can see the 7 of them that we have there. There are more coming next year, so keep an eye out for that. But we want to try and make it easy for you to educate yourself and make it so that, again, you get to that customer's house and say, yeah, I can make this work. No problem. I got this. And for Domotz resources, if you're interested in more information about them, you can certainly go to the website. If you have specific questions or specific help that you need, you can email hello@domotz.com. And they're very nice guys. They are based out of Italy and London, so sometimes it takes a little bit for them to get back to you. They are opening a location here in the States, which they're just about getting ready to announce, so they can speed up their processes here locally a little bit. And we're a big reason as to why, part of the reason why they're opening up that location. So we're excited to have them more local. And it's a great company. We're very excited about this partnership. So